So, my wedding is in 4 days, but with the way my fiancé Jacob's been ghosting me for the last 3 days, I don't know anymore what's happening, or if there'll be a wedding or not. And this is crazy of a situation that's brought me here because right now I'm pretty helpless and don't have anybody to go to. You must be wondering about my family. Well, guess what? I recently just cut them off. So you can just imagine how alone I am right now as I don't know whom to talk about this with. I'm here, trying to share my misery with some strangers on the interwebs. Let me start from the very beginning so that you understand why my life cannot suck anymore at this point. So, I'm Maeve, 27, and a typical white girl coming from a very orthodox family. Well, my family is not only orthodox, but also extremely racist. They've made that clear to me since I was a kid, and I've been raised in a family where the kids were taught not to just mix with the, quote, wrong sort of people, basically meaning people of color. They're so adverse to the whole community that they can't even handle being in the same place with them. So naturally, I grew up witnessing a lot of fights due to the racism my parents inflicted on others. They also made sure their children followed their actions and incorporated their racist instincts. Though they were successful in making my brother similar to them in this manner, they did not succeed in passing it on to me. Ever since I was a child, I've been indifferent to a color of a person's skin and am accustomed to judging them and making new bonds on the basis of the person itself. So it naturally meant that I had some black friends growing up as well, which my parents did not approve of. They used to rebuke me for the same and just would ground me for days, as if they caught me hanging out with my friends of color. As a child, none of this made sense to me. But as I grew up, I finally understood what type of rotten pieces of crap my parents are. Because, what difference does the color of somebody's skin make? We're all humans and should be treated like that, but of course my parents did not understand this simple thing. So you can imagine their horror when their worst nightmare came true, when I introduced my fiancé Jacob to them a month ago. I'd been dating Jacob for a few months by then and had kept my relationship a secret because I was sure that my parents would never approve of him. So, I only informed them when it became absolutely necessary, meaning when my wedding was close. Then started my parents' efforts to get me to dump Jacob. It was clear that they hated Jacob from the moment they met him, but I'd already made up my mind not to listen to them. They tried to convince me that I had only known Jacob for a few short months and could not trust a, quote, man like him. I mean, they were right, that I only knew Jacob for some time and had decided to marry him so soon, but I knew in my heart that it was the right choice, and Jacob was the man for me. I mean, how could I not be sure when we were so deeply in love? Now, it just seems like that maybe it was just me, a fool in love. So, things with my parents got worse with time. It started off with them talking harshly to Jacob and a few raceless slurs here and there, and I just profusely apologized to Jacob on behalf of my parents, and he assured me that he's ignoring it and I should too. So, I thought that I could actually make this work. It was just about the wedding, right? Then Jacob and I would continue living on our own and would have to deal with my parents only on occasions. Well, that was not only the problem that we had before the wedding. Even Jacob's parents were a bit cold and reserved to me. But it was not as bad as how my parents acted. I didn't think much of it because I thought they might be taking some time to open up to a new person. So it was not much of a problem. But the real problem arose when I hosted a family dinner so I could get both families acquainted with one another. But honestly, that was another nightmare. As soon as Jacob's parents came to the dinner, my parents started insulting them. I urged them to keep quiet, but they made a whole scene out of it. It was so embarrassing. Till now, they had only been talking crap about Jacob, and the things were still in my control because I knew Jacob ignored it all. But his family? I wasn't sure what would they think of me because of this whole incident. They had left sooner than they actually arrived without having dinner or anything. And Jacob also left with them, assuring me that he would talk to them and calm them down a bit and would return back home later. I was furious and honestly tired of my parents' racist bullcrap all of this while. They'd been badgering me about it all my life, and I had been quiet, but this, insulting my fiancé and his family, I could not bear this anymore. So I just straight up talked to them about how they could not keep their racist self in control just for the sake of their daughter's happiness. But they were still stubborn about not letting me marry Jacob and thought that till now Jacob would have broken off the marriage himself because of all the insults. This just disgusted me, so they had intentionally been making my fiance's life miserable so that he would leave me, huh? What sort of parents do that? And it was at that moment that I made one of the toughest decisions of my life. I decided to cut my parents off. I could no longer tolerate their insults for my fiancé, and obviously I could not let my fiancé go because of them, since I loved him too much. When I told them this, I asked them to leave my house, and they just went insane and started shouting at me. You know, before leaving, they told me that I was going to regret my decision soon when Jacob would deceive me like others of his kind. I didn't care anymore. I had Jacob on my side, and that's enough for me. I was about to start a new phase in my life, and I wasn't going to let my racist family spoil that for me. Things have been hard these past few days without the presence of my family in my life. The realization that they won't be there at the wedding made me very emotional, but I knew it was the right thing to do, and I thought that, with Jacob by my side, what do I have to worry about, am I right? But then this happened. It's been 3 days since Jacob has not been picking up my calls or answering my text, and he has not even returned back home for the past 3 days. And with only 4 days to our wedding, I was worried sick at first. I contacted his coworker and his good friend Lucas, who told me that Jacob had been coming to work daily. It made no sense to me. Then why is he not talking to me? It was clear that Jacob was ghosting me, but I didn't know his reason behind it. So this is the situation that's brought me here. I thought I'd have Jacob's support even when my family won't be there, but now I just feel lost. Why is Jacob doing this all of a sudden? I mean, we're supposed to get married in 4 days, and my fiancé is not even talking to me. I don't know what to think. There's always this constant dread in the back of my mind about what my parents said before they left about Jacob deceiving me. Is that what's happening right now, or is it something else? I don't know what to do. I tried to ask Lucas where Jacob was staying lately, but he told me he has no idea. So I've decided to visit his parents' house. Maybe they'll know his whereabouts. But other than that, I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm literally on the verge of breaking down because it seems that the guy I cut my parents off for doesn't even seem to care about me. Maybe I'm overthinking. I don't know. So that's why I'm writing this here, so I can have somebody else's opinion on the whole thing. I mean, what do you think I should do in this situation? I'm helpless, I'm alone, and I can't obviously go back to my parents because I don't want to see those racist piece of craps ever again in my life. But what they said kept hitting me. What if Jacob actually deceived me? What would I do then? So guys, please help me out. Any suggestions or advice, it would be way appreciated. Update number 1. Hey guys, I know it's been a week since my last update, and a lot of you wanted me to update sooner, but I cannot since the last week has been crazy. I've uncovered an insane truth that's just uprooted my entire life. But before we get into that, I would like to present my gratitude to you guys for supporting me at a time when I was alone. I really needed somebody to back me up. To the people who were blaming me for the whole ordeal, I think this update will make it clear to you that none of this is my fault. So I'm not going to waste my time explaining myself to a bunch of haters who are just demeaning others from the comforts of their home. This update would be enough answers for you all that are doubting me. Now, getting back to what was happening in the last week. As I mentioned in my initial post that I was planning to go to Jacob's parents' house, I didn't have to try much because the moment I rang their bell and the door opened, it was clear to me where he had been all this while. So, when I reached Jacob's parents' house, it was Jacob who opened up the door. I was actually not expecting to see him there, and I was visiting that house just so I could ask his parents about his whereabouts, and also apologize to them in person for the night, since I've only apologized on call. But when Jacob opened up the door, it left me shocked and happy at the same time. I was happy that I could finally talk to him and ask him what was wrong. I had a sense of hope that maybe things would get all right now, and oh, what a fool I was. As soon as Jacob saw me, he closed the door right on my face. I tried to talk to him, but before I could, the door was already closed. I had made up my mind that I would not leave until I got answers, so I kept knocking on the door, and after about 10 minutes, the door opened again, but this time it was Helen, Jacob's mother. And to my surprise, she led me inside of the home. I thought the woman was too kind as she was still treating me well after all that my parents did that night. I'd have to apologize to her as soon as I got in the house, but my mind was already occupied with the thought of talking to Jacob, so I asked her where Jacob was. She told me that he did not want to talk to me. I still couldn't understand, and then just like on cue, Jacob came down the stairs. My heart was full of hope as he came down to the direction where I was standing, but all of that hope was absolutely shattered. Yep. But all of it was gone when he quietly just left the house. I tried running behind him, but Helen held me by the hand and told me it was of no use since Jacob was not mine anymore. That's when the ugly truth behind why Jacob was ignoring me is all coming to light. Helen just insulted me and laughed at me, calling me a fool. A fool to have thought that they would let her son marry somebody outside of their race. She told me how she has hated me since the day she saw me, because according to her, all that white people like me were good for was to make others around them feel inferior, and she hated me. I mean, who would have guessed that Jacob's parents would be racist as mine? This whole news was shocking to me because I never could have thought this in my wildest dreams, since Helen or Peter, Jacob's father, have always treated me swell. Yes, you've been a bit distant, but they were never harsh to me, so this whole thing about them hating me all this while came as a shock. But that was not all, because the worst was yet to come. Guess what Helen told me next? She told me that since Peter and she could not see Jacob marrying a white girl, they made sure to find him a girl of their own race. And to add to their happiness, Jacob had agreed to marry her. So, this was the reasoning he has been ignoring me for days before our supposed wedding, and I couldn't believe it. Like, how could a man who claimed to love me agree to marry some other girl just because his parents wanted? The Jacob I knew and loved would have fought for me, so none of this made sense to me. I quietly left Jacob's house. I mean, what else could I have done? I could not talk to Jacob since he did his best to avoid me, and staying there would just mean more humiliation for me. But since that day, I've been nothing but a mess. I'm finding it hard to accept that Jacob would betray me like this all of a sudden. I know there's more to this story, and though I'm losing courage and the hope to carry on, I just have to find out. I want to find out why Jacob would agree to marry that girl when we were set to marry in 4 days. I don't know how I'm going to figure all this out, but I'm sure as hell that I want to, cause my mind just won't be at peace unless I do. So if you guys can give any advice or anything on how I can find out this whole thing, please, it'd be very, very grateful of me. Update number 2. Hey guys! Well, it's been a few weeks since my last update, and if you thought that was crazy, then just wait, because my life story is just becoming crazier with each passing day. Let me get straight into what happened that led me to write this update. I was too confused as I could not figure out why would Jacob agree to marry a new girl when he claimed to love me. Well, everything is clear to me now. So, it turns out that Jacob's father has offered Jacob the position of CEO in his company. And by the way, I forgot to tell you guys that Jacob has been working for his father's company for the past year. You guys must be wondering how I found out the truth about him. Do you guys remember Lucas? Yes, Jacob's co-worker and friend. So I reached out to Lucas again in the hopes that he might know something about it. But when I called him and told him about how Jacob had abandoned me, Lucas was furious. He seemed like he was disappointed in Jacob. He even felt bad for me, saying that I did not deserve to be treated like this. He was right. If Jacob wanted to leave me for another girl, he could have told that to my face, but ghosting me? That's crazy. Before I could ask Lucas if he knew any reason why Jacob would do this, he started talking himself. Lucas was a good man. He didn't care that Jacob was his friend. He cared more about supporting who's actually right in a particular situation, which was clearly moi. Lucas simply told me that things actually made sense now, as people were talking about how Jacob would soon be announced as CEO, even when he didn't have much merit for it. Till now, Lucas just shrugged the entire thing off and ignored it, thinking it was just corporate nepotism. But it made more sense to him now, as it did to me. This was the reason Jacob had flipped all of a sudden, days before we were supposed to get married. This must be why he agreed to marry a girl of their choice, without even fighting for me. You know, this This actually hurt me. It did. I mean, like the man I loved, the man I chose over my own family abandoned me for the sake of some position and power. I knew Jacob was ambitious in his career, but this... And you know what the funny thing is? All the months I was living with him led me to suspect him of cheating on his father. I just believed that Jacob was involved in some kind of fraud because he used to spend a lot more than what was stated in his salary slip. Though it was true that I was not sure, I never did anything about it before because I thought it was a matter between his father and him. But now things were different. So I decided to investigate it and asked Lucas to be my ally. Lucas, being the good man he was, agreed to help me get back at Jacob anyhow, because he believed that nobody should go through the thing Jacob made me go through. And guess what? I was right. Jacob was actually involved in a big fraud case in the company. He'd been using company funds for his own personal use for a few months now, and it wasn't too hard to find proof for all this since Lucas worked in the IT department and had easy access to Jacob's systems. With this whole newfound weapon against Jacob, I just straight wanted to go to his family and expose him, but I thought it would be a bit too easy. With revenge fueling me, I could not just go easy on him. Now I've been waiting for the perfect opportunity to expose Jacob to not just his family, but also to the entire world. It seems like the stars are in my favor because Lucas just told me during our last call that Jacob's father's throwing a party to celebrate his engagement with the girl of their choice. Though, his decision to make Jacob the CEO is out in the open in the office, and people are expecting him to make it official at the party. I guess I won't have a better opportunity than to expose old Jakey. I'm all ready to make sure that Jacob learns a lesson for what he did to me. Now all there's left to do is wait for Jacob's engagement party, and let's hope things go as planned. Update number 3. Hey guys, it's me again. It's been, 4 days since my last update, but here I am to break the good news to you guys. As you can already guess, I'm actually very happy right now. Well, why wouldn't I be? I finally got my revenge on Jacob, and it was epic. So yesterday was Jacob's engagement party, and as you can guess, it went well. Since I was not invited to it, I showed up there as Lucas's date, and it was nothing romantic, but it was more like killing 2 birds with a single stone, since this was the only way that I could get access to the party. I also did not want to see me miserable all alone, and as soon as Jacob saw me with Lucas, it was like his whole face turned white as a ghost. I waited a bit, as everybody expected, and Peter was about to announce Jacob as the CEO. But I interrupted. I told him that I would save him the embarrassment of going back on his decision. Peter was furious with the interruption, yet seemed curious to know what was happening. That's why even when Helen asked him to call security, he stayed, almost like giving me the time to speak without telling me. So I took the chance to expose how the son Peter, trusted so much, was doing nothing but deceiving him this entire time. Well, Peter was shocked, and it was like he instantly regretted giving me the chance. He started shouting at me about how I was just talking rubbish, and he also asked me to leave before he called security. That's when I forwarded a file to Peter's number. You see, this file contained all the proof of how Jacob had been misusing the company's funds. When all of this was happening, I noticed that Jacob's face had lost its color, and what happened next was the most unexpected. Peter rushed to Jacob and slapped him across the face. Yep, so hard. Until then, I didn't know whether Peter believed me or not, but the slap in a room full of their family and friends and Peter's employees made it crystal clear that Peter knew the truth now. Well, this was just the tip of the iceberg as more drama followed, and the girl Jacob was soon to marry was the daughter of Peter's friends who broke off his daughter's engagement to Jacob after this whole mess. Everyone was gossiping, talking about Jacob while he just stood there with his head bent low, and his father and mother shouting at him for being an ingrate. Well, that's when I left the whole scene since my work there was done, and from the looks of it and the anger in Peter and Helen's eyes, I'm quite sure they won't be forgiving Jacob anytime soon. He doesn't even deserve the forgiveness, neither from me nor his parents. Honestly, as angry as his parents were, I would not be surprised if they even disowned him and kicked him out. Call me evil, but I would enjoy that scene. I'd even pay to watch it, but I guess for now I'd have to be satisfied with the whole party fiasco. I don't know, it's crazy how Jacob betrayed everybody in his life. Me by ghosting me for just a position, and his parents by the fraud, and now because of it, he might be left all alone. I'll let you guys know if anything else happens, and until then, this will be my last update on the whole thing, so goodbye. Final update. Update number 4. Hey guys, it's been a whole month since my previous update, and well, this was going to be it. But something really interesting happened last week, and I thought I would update. Firstly, let me tell you that, as I expected, Peter ended up disowning Jacob and kicking him out of the house. Not only that, he sued Jacob for the money he wrongfully took out of the company. So to say Jacob hit rock bottom after being on cloud 9, it's an understatement. This led to Jacob being miserable and asking all his friends and acquaintances for money. For the last month, he has just been trying to get money anyhow so that he could pay his dad back. But obviously he's failed. He's also called Lucas to ask for some money, but Lucas humiliated him, saying that he did not intend to help a guy who did not have enough courage to tell a woman that he didn't want to marry her. It was actually funny when Lucas told it to me over the call. He's unable to get a new job because his engagement party fiasco and his fraud got pretty viral. So Jacob is how we call helpless right now. Last week, when he was done trying everything to get money and nothing worked, he turned up at my door. I mean, can you believe the audacity of the man to turn to me for help after what he did to me? I just shut the door in his face and left him begging me for help. Honestly, I could not care much for his pleadings since I was way over him now. So, he tried to pester me for 2 to 3 days, but when I threatened him if he didn't stop, I would get a restraining order against him, and that's when he stopped. Now, I guess he's just trying to get any sort of job so that he could pay his father back since he's in a lot of debt. Well, for all I care, he's the one who's responsible for his condition. Maybe if he had stuck by my side, he won't be going through all of this. Well, it's actually a good thing since I got rid of such a selfish guy. All well that ends well, right? I guess this is going to be my final update on the whole thing, guys. I went through a lot of pain throughout, but I'm glad I earned something from this entire deal. I earned supportive people like you and good friends like Lucas through all of it. I'm grateful. So guys, this is it. Goodbye. Top comments from the final update. Guys, 2 of these comments don't really agree with each other. Here it is. Comment 1 says, wow. Throughout the story, I took you as the poor victim, but girl, you turned the tables. That revenge was epic. That jerk deserved it, and you gave it to him, and please don't pay attention to all the people in the comments saying that you should feel guilty for doing this to him. He got what he deserved. I'm glad that you found a friend like Lucas in all of this, so more love to you. Comment 2. Ugh, really? Ruining someone's whole life just for the sake of revenge, or just because you couldn't handle the guy rejecting you and going for another girl. That's extreme. Not only did you ruin that poor guy's career, you also stole away his family from him. Stop playing the good man and look at yourself for the evil person that you are.